Hello and welcome everyone to the ARR Lockdown Urban Family Panel Discussion with Kylie Scott, Jennie Kew and Amy Andrews. My name is Laura Boone and I'm an avid romance reader and a baby writer with 2 contemporary romances to my name. In both capacities, I am absolutely delighted to be talking to these 3 esteemed authors today. A quick reminder to everyone that ARRLD is hosting a treasure hunt through the weekend, so be sure to stay until the end to take down the codes of the 3 writers for your spot at the prize. And I'll start by telling you a little bit about our guests, and then we can dive into the joys of urban family living between the pages. Amy Andrews is an award-winning USA Today best-selling author who has written 70 contemporary romances in both the traditional and digital markets, including a string of very cute graphic novels. Her books bring all the feels from sass and quirk and laughter to emotional grit to panty-melting heat. Her urban family books include Risky Business, Holding Out for a Hero, and Numbered. She loves frequent travel, good books, and great booze, although she'll settle for mediocre booze if that's all that's available. For many, many years, she was a registered nurse, which means she knows things, anatomical things, and she's not afraid to use them. She just moved back to her central Queensland roots, taking a sea change in the pretty coastal town of Yeppoon, where she gets to stare at the ocean all day. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you.
Kylie Scott is a New York Times and USA Today best-selling author of over 20 contemporary romances, including the much-loved Stage Dive and Dive Bar series, both of which have urban family elements. She's been voted Australian Romance Writer of the Year 4 times in 2013, 14, 18 and 19 by the Australian Romance Writers Association, and her books have been translated into 11 different languages. She is a longtime fan of romance, rock music, and B-grade horror films. She's based in Queensland with her 2 children and her husband, where she reads, writes, and never ever dithers on the internet. Welcome, Kylie.
Hello.
Jennie Kew writes contemporary slice-of-life erotic romance novels and contemporary and paranormal short erotic stories. Her books include the Bennett's Bastard series, the Brisbane Bachelor series, and the Kew collection. When not sitting in front of her computer, Jennie can be found reading a book, watching a movie, or building Lego. She lives in regional New South Wales, a stone's throw from Australia's capital, Canberra, with her husband's magnificent beard, a teenage giant, and their feline overlord and editor-in-chief, Tallulah. Welcome, Jennie.
Hi, how you going?
So for readers who may not be familiar with the urban family as a trope or a genre or a theme, it's used to describe a group of friends who are close as family, and they are the family you've chosen, and you live, play, and work together. In Amy's words, an urban family is your peeps, your tribe, the people you choose to hang with, the people you waste hours on ends with at the local coffee shop or bar, talking about love, sex, and Netflix, and pondering useless crap like the latest Game of Thrones episode. Which color M&M is your favorite, and who is the cutest Winchester?
Is that up for debate? Is that really up for debate?
It's Dean. It's
Would
Dean, right?
Would you even want someone in your urban family who didn't believe it was Dean?
I know. Like, it's always Dean.
Sorry, okay.
Apparently there are people out there who like Sam, so who knew?
Why? He's a whiner. His hair's longer than mine.
Well, that's not necessarily a problem, but the whining is a problem.
Whining is a problem.
Urban families can apply to a lot of subgenres, and sometimes it's not a theme, but just background to the series the author is writing. Examples include the hockey romances of Serena Bowen and Elle Kennedy, Amy's Sydney Smoke series, where teams and their significant others live and work together. Rock romances have bands as urban families, as we know from Kylie Scott and Nalini Singh. And Jill Shulwitz's Heartbreaker Bay series is another series with a strong urban family background. Some Nora Roberts books have urban families as well. And of course, urban families don't just appear in books, they're a staple on television. Think Sex and the City, Melrose Place, Friends, The Big Bang Theory, and others. So my first question is, do the three of you agree with my definition of an urban family, and is there anything you'd like to add to that? Perhaps we'll start with you, Kylie.
I think they're definitely they're the family you choose for yourself, to use that old quote. And a lot of friendships can work within the workplace or when you're at school and that, but once you move away from there, some of those sort of tend to fade. Whereas I think the friendships we're talking about here are more lifelong ones through all the ups and downs. It's not just a matter of convenience. So, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree too. I remember my sister used to have a fridge magnet that said "Friends welcome anytime, family by appointment," and I thought that's pretty much what an urban family is. It's like, you know, you can have blood relatives in there. I think in my own family, we were raised around a lot of cousins and second cousins, so we've got a lot of very close family bonds as well. But even when we're not hanging out together, we've still got a great friendship amongst those family members as well. But yeah, there's also like I've been friends with people since I was 10 years old. We're still friends today, and you might go ages, you know, sometimes months without speaking to each other. But you pick up the phone or you're on Facebook and it's like not a day has passed, and you just pick up where you left off and you can just keep talking. And, you know, you might throw in some new thing to talk about or something else that's happened, or some new thing that's grasped your attention since the last time you spoke. But it's really like no time has passed between that conversation and this one. You just pick up where you left off and you can go with it. And I think, you know, a lot of people still have those friends. They may only have one or two left from when you were a kid. Like Kylie was saying, people do tend to drift apart. But, you know, those ones that you're still friends with after 30, 40 years, they're the ones that are sticking around. They're the ones you can talk to anytime about anything, and it's always going to be a blast.
Yeah, I think it's true about it being the definition. Basically, it's a family that you choose, because, you know, a lot of us have families that we wouldn't necessarily choose at all if we had a choice about it. So it's nice to find your tribe and find people that you choose to be with. And I think probably what really makes it an urban family, and that's probably a bit of a misnomer, because obviously they can be found in small towns and stuff as well, is the interconnectedness of them. Like there will be, like if we take Friends, the television show, for an example, like, you know, Ross and
Monica,
thank you, a brother and sister. Chandler's an old friend of Ross's. Joey came along later. They all kind of know each other through varying degrees, but they've all come together as a group. So I think, and it's how those groups intertwine and interconnect, but still stay together as a core. That I think it sort of really represents an urban family.
Okay, great. So, Amy, why do you think urban families are so popular?
Again, like I said, sometimes we have families that we'd really rather not have. So I guess there's that. But I think it's just community. I think any books that have community in them really speak to people. And I think that probably works better in some forms of genre fiction or subgenre fiction than others. I think it works well with romantic comedy or with, you know, sporting teams or rock bands. But I think I'm always drawn to books that have community, I like that sense of community. And I think that's why people like small town romance as well, because it's that sense of community.
Do you agree, ladies?
Yeah, I think so. And like you mentioned before with like the hockey romances, Serena Bowen and Avery Flynn also does the Ice Knights hockey series. And yeah, it really is like Amy was saying, you know, the people that we choose to hang out with, because, you know, sometimes your own family members, they're not particularly nice people. Then, you know, you might love them, but not particularly like them. And yes, so being able to hang out with people that you choose to be with, to be able to, you know, form that familial bond with people that you want to be around, instead of, you know, maybe people that you're forced to be around. I mean, who hasn't been to like a dodgy Christmas dinner where, you know, a fight has broken out about some nonsensical thing that should have passed 20 years ago, but people are still hammering on about it. So yeah, I really do like those sorts of things where they've got that camaraderie. They sort of stick up for each other, even when they're fighting amongst themselves. If someone else kind of comes along and intrudes on that, and they've got each other's back. Really, they sort of stick up for each other, and they go, hey, just because I'm allowed to pick on him doesn't mean you're allowed to pick on him. So there's, yeah, like Amy said, there's that community, there's that camaraderie. And I think it kind of speaks to a lot of people who either value that because it's what they've grown up with, it's what they've known, or it talks to people who may not have known that, and they cling to it as something to aspire to. Because, you know, I think we all, even though we're all introverts, we're all authors tend to be alone a lot of the time.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, I think we all still sort of crave that interaction with other people who are on a similar wavelength as us.
I mean, I think if we didn't value relationships, we wouldn't be reading romance in the first place.
Yeah.
And we all, at one time or another, for one reason or another, have lost a friend that we value, and we know how hard those connections can be to find. And yeah, when you get someone who just has that same sense of humor as you, that you can call at any hour of the night when things are melting down, and you know they've got your back, that's really something precious. And yeah, that's all my deep thoughts on that.
When the three of you have been writing, have you consciously set out to write a sort of urban family book, or is that just part of the community? I see Kylie nodding, so that's a yes there.
Yeah. My brother and I are adopted, so we don't even have sort of DNA in common in our family. So we're all very different people, and no one's really a reader in my family, and we're just really different people. So finding that found family for yourself, the people who really get you, and like I said, have that sense of humor and are into romance books and can gush about the latest hero on whatever Netflix show, that's really cool to have someone you can trust to that degree. And books about family are nice too, to have that relationship where you've always known each other. You've never not known each other. They're just a staple in your life. But friends have sort of a different level of intimacy to that, which can be just every bit as important. But yeah, no, definitely set out to do that. It's just a fascinating way to bring different people together as well.
I think it's hard if you're writing a kind of story, you know, if you're writing a rock band, or if you're writing, you know, a sports team, or you're writing about a small town, it's kind of hard not to really write, you know, the people in that town that form a community anyway. So it's almost a natural thing. I know when I was writing Holding Out for a Hero, my whole theme of that was misfits. So there's sort of hero and a best friend, you know, are misfits. And so I hadn't planned on writing. A couple of those characters in that book came along as it happened, but I knew as I was going along it was becoming a real urban family. Like, we had the two crazy carny aunts, and we had, you know, some rescue dogs, and we had the bartender that was sort of rescued off the streets by the hero, and, you know, so there was all these kind of misfits essentially making up this wonderful kind of urban family that they loved and cherished, and, you know, kind of wore a collective cape, or each other's heroes. And I think you can set out to do it. Some things line naturally to it. But I think I always gravitate to that, because I think if you're writing a character, well, they normally do have a friend or a sister, or, you know, I think it's a, you know, unless they're complete loners, I think they're easy. It just kind of, it can develop naturally as well, just because you're writing about people.
It explains a lot about a character too, how they bounce off their friends and their family members, and you know,
their friends,
what
their friends, what their friends are like, says a lot about that character.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's it. And I think with my 2 series, I initially started writing them as standalones, and they just kind of branched out into these series, because with the Bennett's Bastard series, the heroine in the first book is the youngest of 9 children, and she's the only girl in the family who was trained to be blacksmiths. So she's, you know, she's got in there, she's done that, she is a professional blacksmith. So it's like all of these brothers were just turning up, and her dad is like this super eccentric artist, and it all just kind of spiraled out of control once I hit the end of the book. And I was like, right, so I need a book for them, and it all goes kind of spiraled out. And then there was her best friend, and then she was married to her best friend's brother, so there's now the ex-husband, and it's a whole town just kind of bloomed out of this one story, and filled up with all these interesting people. And of course, you really want to write about these interesting people, because they've got all these little quirks, and they've got all these little sort of familiarity things. And like you're saying before, with the small towns, you know, everybody knows everybody, and it's just really lovely to sort of explore those relationships, and like, how do they know each other, and what's the relationship between these 2 people and those 2 people, and is it just a blood relation, or is it a friendship relation, and just sort of exploring all those different ties. Then in my other series, the Brisbane Bachelors, both the hero and the heroine don't really have any family. The hero has one sister, and the heroine has an estranged aunt. That's it. So their family is essentially built up of friends. And people that have helped them through the years, and people that they know and that they've made these connections with. So they've kind of the complete opposite to my other series, and they are mostly friendship and that sort of family. Really, the family that they've created for themselves through people they've met through the years. So yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff to explore there. So that's a lot of things that interest me there. Is just but the book that I'm writing now is actually the second book in that series, and it's gone from the owner of the bookstore is now onto the manager of the bookstore. So I'm kind of working my way through the people in this bookstore, and the people that surround this store, and those people, and the connections there.
I think it's worth noting how much readers love it when there's a series, when they can really settle in and get to know these characters and their community and everything too. So, yeah.
It's something comforting as a reader about being able to return and catch up a little bit with the couple from the previous book. They're still doing okay, you know, and that's really nice.
Yeah, I think,
sorry, you go, Amy.
I was just going to back up what you were saying, Kylie. I think that's one of the advantages of running like an urban family, is that you have plenty of fodder for future, you know, for a series and for future books as well. It's one of the main advantages. But I think that it says a lot about you and your writing, and that people enjoy it. If readers want to read those other stories, you know, those other characters you've brought in, I think if you'd be a bit sad if you wrote a bunch of characters nobody wanted to know anything more about.
That's true. Does anyone remember the first romance they read, which had an urban family as a background?
No. I actually started reading romance when I was in my late 20s. So like only about 15 years ago. And I honestly, I mean, I was in hospital and going through surgery and stuff at the time. And I barely remember what I did or said or ate, let alone what I read. I haven't got a clue. And I read a lot of historical. I can remember that, reading a lot of Joanna Lindsay and Margaret Moore books at the time. But other than that, I can't really tell you what I read.
I actually think that your Stage Dive series, Kylie, was one of the first that I read, because I also used to read a lot of historical, and there are some found families in historical, but they're not as clearly defined.
People
And
really stayed back then.
Yeah.
Now everyone goes off to work wherever.
Yes.
So,
And so when I started reading contemporary romance, that's really, you know, when I first came across it. So yeah, it was an exciting day for me. So
I remember I don't know what my first one was, but it definitely would have been a Jennifer Cruzy book for sure. She introduced me to together, and she does amazing communities. That's one of the female communities. One of the gifts of her books is that she has this amazing female community around whatever, you know, main character there is. Like I've got a few in the background. Fast Women, Welcome to Temptation, Faking It. They're all amazing stories with, you know, she might not call them urban family, but they certainly, you know, have friends you choose. Certainly a lot of families you choose in those books. So definitely would be Jennifer Cruzy for sure. But then I went on to read lots of other books in that sort of vein. And I think now in a lot of, you know, romance stories, you definitely still get an urban family in all kinds of books.
I loved the group of girlfriends in Bet Me.
Yes, that's classic. Yes.
Fantastic.
Yes, they are amazing. Welcome to Temptation is really good as well. Faking It's amazing. Her stories are just, you know, and that really drew me. That really, reading my first Jennifer Cruzy was the book that made me realise the kind of books I wanted to write. Yeah. And I hadn't realised I didn't know that till that point in time, but there was like a little light bulb went off in my head. It's like, oh, okay, romance can be like that as well. So yeah.
Mine probably was like a Judith Krantz when I was around 14 or something.
Yeah.
All the uber cool friends in their uber cool, fabulous clothes.
And that sounds great. If you hear any barking in the background, I apologize. It's my puppy trying desperately to get the older dog to play with him. Which authors, well, in fact, you've answered this question to some extent. Which authors do urban families best? And what are some of your favorite reads? Does anybody want to add to that?
Yeah, I love...
sorry, you go.
I love Sweet Dreams by Kristen Ashley when the divorcee rocks into this motorbike town in the hills and knows absolutely no one, but she's just a lovely, caring person, and you can just see her pulling all these people into her orbit, and it's just beautiful. And another sassy bunch of girlfriends was Alexa Martin's Intercepted in the football world, and no, it's gone. It'll come back to me at 2 a.m. Your turn, Jen.
For me, I really love Avery Flynn's Hardigan series and the Ice Knights, which is kind of spun off from that. So there's a series of 4 female friends that kind of spawned those 2 trilogies. And then it's just kind of, you know, continued to spin into other hockey players and all the rest of it. But the 4 friends that started out, and the first book in the Hardigan series is called Butterface, and the heroine is, you know, she's got this fantastic toned body, but she's, you know, she's not seen as being particularly pretty. She's got like a really big nose that she inherited from her grandfather, and she's, you know, got funny looking ears and funny looking pointy chin, but you know, she's got these great friends around her that they all sort of, one of the things I like about her, Avery Flynn's books, is that she explores not just different relationships, but different body types as well, and tries not to stick with like the stereotypical kind of heroine. And that's what really resonates with me, is that she chops and changes and makes it different and keeps it interesting each book. But yeah, the 4 friends that start out in those 2 books, so I think Butterface and Muffin Top, I think, are where you meet all 4 of them. And yeah, but they go to like these paint and sip nights where they basically drink really cheap wine and do these really weird paintings that the guy at the front has sort of put up. And you know, they all help each other out. And one of them runs a flower shop, and she's constantly having staff quit on her, so the others will sort of help her out at the flower shop and do the deliveries for her. And one of them is not marriage consultant, wedding consultant. Is she wedding planner? Yeah, thank you. So if she needs help out, you know, and they help each other out. And then if they're going through a bad breakup, they all sort of pile together on a couch with like their hockey blanket, and they watch, you know, movies, and they'll pull out like, you know, Mad Max and watch Furiosa driving around in trucks and shooting people up and stuff like that. And they'll watch on these tiny little laptops and eat tons of ice cream and talk to each other and cry and you know, it's that really sort of best friend camaraderie, family relationships that, yeah, they're really, really sweet, but they're really strong. And yeah, I love those books. I think they're great.
I think what's quite interesting about...
I think some of the best urban family...
Go ahead, Amy.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I think some of the best urban family books are done are sports teams. And I've really enjoyed recently Paul Kennedy Ryan's Hoops books, that they're also in a basketball team. And there's also Naima Simone. She's got some Gridiron, some NFL books. And I've just been binging Rachel Reed's Hockey Players as well. They're all male, and they're awesome as well. So I sort of tend to have been reading a lot of sports romance and quite a bit of male lately. And there's you know, sports teams are just, you know, perfect for urban family.
The sports teams are perfect for us. And I think what I'm picking up here is something that for me reflects the romance community, in that there's a lot of female support for each other. Whereas if you perhaps go back to some of the books of the sort of 80s and 90s, they always included kind of a, you know, quite often the villain was a, you know, an ex-lover or
the
a rival love interest. Yes. And actually, yeah, it's much more fun and to me much more realistic to read about a group of supportive women, because that's my life experience basically.
It's just more nuanced, isn't it, really?
Yes.
Sort of, you know, that's not so much caricature. We've all sort of, you know, had to think about, well, do we really want to be, you know, talking about the, you know, very cardboard cutout ex, you know, who's a bitch and she's out to cause trouble, or do we want to make it more nuanced than that, you know, realizing that every character is a person, and, you know, they have their good bits and their bad bits. They might not be the nicest person, but maybe there's reasons for that. So I think, you know, the nuance is better now. And of course, I think there's been a real push for, you know, women supporting women, and I think it's great to see that reflected in romance writing and romance books across the board as well.
Yep, completely agree.
From a writer's perspective, are there any specific advantages and disadvantages to creating an urban family? We've talked about the advantages, that readers love series, and they give you a chance to go back and really add more depth, I suppose, to everybody's stories and to the environment. But are there any disadvantages?
I don't always want to write a book for the best friend. Sometimes I'm just
done.
They're like, but what about her? And I'm like, she died. Move on.
Yeah, especially if you just put them in there for nothing really. They've played this little tiny role because you needed something to happen or whatever, and you don't really give them any second thought, and they become readers' favourites. And you're like, oh, now I'm going to have to write that story as well.
When they're old enough to try and take over the book and make it all about them. Oh,
yes.
Characters.
Damn characters.
Yeah, I had that happen with the sister of one of my characters, and she was only supposed to be there as sort of a vehicle to help push this thing, and then I received so many people saying, so when is her book coming? And I went, I was actually going to kill her, but sure, I suppose she can get better. So she's now going to be in the third book in that trilogy is going to be on her, because I have currently at this point no idea what the heck to write about her, but she's pushed all the way to like the end of next year.
It'll come, Jenny, it'll come.
It will eventually, yeah. Got 2 books to write before I get to that one.
Well, that's the other thing I guess you can do. You can just keep postponing them, saying,
Yeah.
oh, you're getting there, but, you know, there are other characters who deserve their story first.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking about characters, before we go, would you each like to tell us about your latest release? Maybe we'll start with you again, Kylie.
I have the rich boy with this handsome half-naked man on the cover.
Love that cover.
Cinderella with a fat chick.
I didn't realise it was in paperback. Actually, I might need to buy the paperback just so I can put it on a shelf somewhere. Cheer me up on a bad day. Just maybe tell us a little bit about it for people who don't know the story.
Oh, I just wanted to do Cinderella as a fat chick.
Awesome.
A kick-ass, take-no-names girl who just went in and went, yeah, this world is a mess. You're all a bit drunk on money. Yeah. He sorts them out.
Cool.
You're a bit of a subverter, aren't you, Kylie Scott?
I'm not subtle, yeah.
subverting the stereotypes, Kylie Scott. No, it's good to have such different shape representation in
It's good to mix it up.
definitely, yeah.
Absolutely.
From one fat chick, I can tell you it's definitely very good.
Well, I think there's more of us fat chicks out there in the world than slim, slender ones, and we like to see ourselves in books too. So
I think that's the same with anybody. Like, I think that's, you know, part of the issues of, you know, the romance industry, lots of industries are facing at the moment about representation of people of colour as well. You know,
Yeah.
Black people, brown people read books, and they want to see themselves.
yeah,
And as they should, as it should be.
yes.
Yeah.
What about you, Amy? What's your latest release?
Well, that would be clever if I'd actually had my cover. One moment. Okay, I'm back. Well, I've actually got the third book out in the Credence series, is Asking for Trouble, and I don't have a cover for that because it's only digital, but the first 2 books are Nothing But Trouble and The Trouble with Christmas.
Yes.
These are now just available digitally. And the third book, which was out in April, is Asking for Trouble, and they're all set in the small town of Credence, Colorado, which essentially got lots of men and not very many women. And the first book opens with them trying to solve that problem and trying to encourage them to come to the town and stay and do businesses and, you know, maybe hook themselves a local farmer or whoever takes a fancy. And the first book is an ex-NFL player, and I tend to seem to do sport. For somebody who doesn't like sport, I tend to write a lot of sport, so it's very interesting. And yes, Asking for Trouble is the third one that's out, and I'm just writing the 4th book at the moment. So
Fabulous.
hopefully there'll be lots more in the Credence series.
And when do you expect that 4th one to be out, Amy? Next year?
The 4th one is not going to be out until next year, next April or May, but it'll be in paperback. So yeah.
Okay, great. And what about you, Jenny? What have you just released, or what's coming up soon?
For mine, I had this book, His Own Heaven. This came out at the end of February this year. And that's book 3 in my Bennett's Bastard series, so all the 9 siblings. And it's about Toby, who is one of the twins who are kind of stuck in the middle, and Lucy, who is an ex-firefighter, and she's been working for a corporate security company for 10 years after getting out of the fire department because she was very badly burned in a house fire. And so she actually has quite severe burns down her face and body. And then Tobias, who is the biggest of the men, he's this giant of a man. He's 6'8", and you know, he's dominant and she's submissive. So when they meet each other and they're just fascinated by each other, and those sort of differences between them, and she's quite tall. I'm very tall. I'm 5'10". So I kind of started writing very tall heroines because I got sick of reading about really short, petite women who look absolutely nothing like me. So yeah, a lot of my heroines do tend to be on the tall side. Yeah, and they he runs a garden centre, and he's just hired her as his new office manager. So they both have a rule that they're not supposed to sleep with people at work, and they very quickly break that rule. So
rules might be broken.
That's it.
Well, that sounds great. And I have to say that one of my favorite heroines of all times is very tall. She's described as an Amazon. It's Lydia Grenville from The Last Hellion by Loretta Chase. So slightly different genre, definitely not urban family, but still a wonderful book. Well, thank you very much, everyone. This has been an amazing discussion.
Yes,
Could I ask everybody to hold up their code so that Amy and Jenny, if you can raise yours up a bit. Yes, perfect. Okay, there we've got them all. That's fantastic. Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much. It's been entertaining and informative, and I think about the best fun you could have outside the sheets and the pages. So
Thank you for having us.